And Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Father God, you are good, holy, perfect. You are the God of love, life, joy, and peace. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Please bless me. Let me honor you, my mom, my dad, and let my words be solely of the truth. And I ask all these things in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Father God is the God who hears and answers prayers, and He's given me life, and again, I do everything to honor Him, at least try to. I'm certainly an imperfect human being. And honor my mom and dad. My dad is first and foremost, father first, and I had him too short, but 63 years, and I had my mommy for 21. So my message is going to be the truth. I put my hand on a Bible in court. I have evidence. I will take a lie detector. And when I say truth in this message, this is this monthly message that I give regarding the life and death of my dad and even my mom, and in some ways my life. It's October 3rd, and so this is going to be the end of the month message for September, even though the dates are different. But again, I'm speaking the truth. I'm not giving an opinion. Okay, when I say the truth, it's factual. I have evidence, whether it's something I heard or saw, or something which was written, or testimony my dad gave me. It could be video, photographs, audio, whatever the case might be. It's not my opinion when I say, here's what I think. I mean, certainly some of the evidence is circumstantial. It only makes sense. I might make this sound political, this message, because I, like having President Trump in office. You can see 47 up there. So I was just blessed to actually, I know my dad would be proud, and my mom as well. My mom would have liked President Trump. I know my dad would have, but he was, and I'll get to this, he was gaslighted and groomed because the person who was supposed to be his caregiver, I know was a Democrat, and I know was, had gaslighted, brainwashed, groomed my father for 30 plus years. And I'm sure she had him believing in having a leader like our former president. God bless him. He tried, but he was weak-minded. Was not very strong. Other people, especially women, were, actually ruling instead of him. Just like my dad was used and abused and taken advantage of for 30 plus years. Now, again, I'm not, trying to incite riot here with people. Okay. I was never violent toward, any of my family, especially anybody in the life of my mom and dad. Although I was falsely accused of that, for that. And, I will keep this message to 1 hour. I'm going to, break down the situation and give a really important update and try to give it sooner than later and just kind of say what comes to my heart. There's actually a scripture that says from your mouth comes, the feelings and the things in your heart. So if you speak it, that's what you really feel. And that's why, you'll see a link. See, I'm pointing down here because it'll be on YouTube, toward a lot of this evidence and the testimony of my father and the words of the, one who petitioned a court order against me, which has cost me in innumerable ways to keep away from my dad, and falsely accused me of being violent, and the protection order was wrought with, falsities and fraud and, inaccuracies and just deceit. And of course, and I have to sound political about this, the same time President Trump was going through his ordeals in New York, so was I. And so I'm still going through mine. But again, and I know I'm a little discombobulated, so I'm going to try to regather my thoughts. But the reason I'm being, again, political is I just was blessed to get a letter back from the White House, just like my daddy, who trained me to be just like him. I can't help it. It's instinctual, but was also blessed by my mom, who was, supported me in everything I did. But just got a letter back from the White House, from the Trump administration, just like my daddy got one from President Reagan, and I even had one before from the office of President Obama. And again, you can click YouTube link here below and see, these letters. And the reason I'm mentioning that again is because these, they happen to be Democrat, liberal, woke, either females or minorities. I mean, I know everybody's decrying white supremacy now, okay? But the truth is, the godliest people, the people who are more godly, especially in this country, happen to be middle-aged or older white males. That just happens to be the way it is. I mean, all you have to do is look at the commandments and what does God say? He's got 10 commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Okay, honor thy father and mother. I mean, if you believe in abortion, you believe in killing. I mean, that's breaking a commandment. If you don't honor your father and mother, you're breaking a commandment. If you don't put God first, which primarily in our country means God above, capitalism and money. Number two, you should, have no gods before me. Okay? Don't take the Lord's name in vain. I mean, God speaks about himself. The first, I guess it's 3 commandments actually. And then there's the, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal. I mean, all these things that are being done by people, but especially done to my daddy and done to me. You can't honor your father or honor a man or a father figure or a husband or a boyfriend or, a brother if you're breaking all the other commandments. You break one, you break them all. Okay, now having said that, I'm going to keep again this message to an hour, and I know I did that last time, and I'm going to give, again this update, but briefly, I'm leaving it as a testimony. Some of my daddy's words to me, he was always believed in the truth, always told me the truth. He loved and appreciated the, perpetuity, of the recorded image. I mean, he was taking videos. He was mocked for it, even when we were kids, because he worked hard to be able to afford, like, the first video camera, in our community, the first satellite dish. I mean, he worked in publishing. I mean, he was all about, documenting life. He celebrated birthdays more than anybody you'll meet. He cherished life. He always celebrated birthdays. He loved life. So again, the basic story for those who might not have listened, and I don't know who's listening, but because I can tell you this, these messages are still costing me not only financially, but I've lost, opportunities with work, whether it's regular, quote unquote, 9-to-5 jobs, because of this, as I mentioned, this protection order that somebody took out who I've seen 4 times in 10 years. And every one of those altercations, she was the violent person. She was the threatening, the menacing one. She was the one who fraudulently and falsely used the courts. And wait till you get this update. To have me falsely accused in a jail just so she could keep using and abusing my father. First, she was a gold digger. I mean, that was first and foremost, but an evil gold digger, one who has no problem, verbally, then emotionally, then physically abusing, somebody who was 21 years older than her that deserved her respect, that gave her everything. So again, just to do the backstory, my daddy, God bless him, born November 28th, 1932, and actually I just celebrated on September 25th, my blessed Uncle Joe, one of his older brothers, would have celebrated his 100th birthday on September 25th. He was born 1925, and I know my daddy should make it to 100. And actually, one of my mom's sisters is just turning 100 on October 6th. She's still around. Now I'll get to that story again because I briefly mentioned it last time. And then I even have her other sister, the only 2 remaining in her birth family of 12 or 13. I think it was 13. Was 100, turned 100 last year. What a blessing. Now I know my dad had in his health and his desire and love for life to want to live to be 100. I think I could live as healthy as I am to be 100, but no, not when you're falsely accused and jailed and threatened and attacked and, the victim of, having weapons used against you, like my dad left multiple recordings of this person, threatening him with a knife, throwing knives at him, things I've heard. I mean, what more evidence do you need? Who are you defending if not for life? I mean, think of the place, and I'll get to again my dad's story here before I get to this, but just know this, regardless of your religion. I mean, I've studied all of them, and again, the top 5 would be, basically Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and then I'd say Judaism. but I think that's lower on the list. But it's, the major ones again are the four at least biggest across the world are Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. But if you just knew that God was the God of love, life, joy, and peace, and what life meant, the life of a human being, and even, the animal kingdom, there's nothing more important. You'll know that when you die. I'll know that when I die. I know that when my father died. My father knew how important life is. People shouldn't just live to be 100. They should live to be, eternal. God never wanted people to die. And I don't want to get all preachy, but if you go back into the scriptures, people live to be 600 years old. I mean, our time is getting shorter and shorter. Babies don't even make it out of the womb. They don't last, 5 days after they're conceived, let alone making it 9 months, and then making it a year or 100 years. And my poor dad, he only made it to 91, and he died. And again, I'll get to this, under suspicious circumstances, and he didn't have to die. Read the report. And I knew what happened. I knew what was going to happen from the day he met this person who was just nothing but Satan's agent. The most evil human being I've ever known. The lives, remember, the devil's a hater, a liar, a thief, and a destroyer. Everything he does leads to death. This person destroyed my father, destroying me, and then their supporters, the betrayers, those, and again, I give them, I don't want to get into the whole thing again about how, in a cult-like situation, you follow the cult leader. You don't know right from wrong. So you follow this very, and again, and I just wrote this message, and I'll get to, again, the backstory of how, truth from lie. God speaks one language. He speaks the truth. That's all he does. He can only speak and tell and do and act on the truth. That's all he does. But Satan is, in a sense, twice as powerful. He has two ways of speaking. The first way he'll speak is a lie. He'll just tell you a direct lie, like a human being will just flat out lie. Or they're wrong. That's a version. That's 1 and 1A. Or they're just wrong about something. They tell you the wrong outcome of a sporting event, the wrong thing that somebody said, the wrong thing that happened, or they'll just lie about it. Okay? Now, the second version of deceit that the devil does is, see, he'll just tell you a flat-out lie, or the second thing is he'll deceive. See, God doesn't do that. The devil is a deceiver. He will tell you something that seems so much like the truth and tell you what he says is the truth. Or his agent on earth, it could be a woman, could be a man, could be whomever. But, God first came to Eve first. The devil first came to Eve first and lied and deceived her, tempted and tricked and trapped her. And then she did that to the man, tempted and trapped the man. But think about it. The devil can just flat out lie, or he can tell you a version of the truth that isn't the truth at all, but it seems like the truth and it's nothing but a lie. That's doubly powerful. And that's what this human being has done to my father and to me and to all of the world and humanity. But again, I'm not a violent person. I don't need a court to tell me to not be a violent person, to stay away from this person. I never wanted to be near this person. She's evil. I'm not stupid. I'm smart. I stay away from evil and thievery and lying, death and destruction. Somebody who dishonors, disrespects, rejects, and betrays my own father. My life. I don't exist if that man didn't marry my mother. If it wasn't for my dad and mom. I don't exist. That's the most important thing. Life. I'm not a father, not that I know of. I haven't parented a child. There's nothing you can do greater than to give birth to another human being. Even God himself, in a sense, doesn't have that power. Let's say you even believe in Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ didn't have children. He never got married. And God, the first things he said were, be fruitful and multiply. He said it to the animal kingdom. It wasn't just a command, and I'll again just preach briefly on this. It was an observation. He said, you know what? You look at the animal kingdom. They don't need to be told to go be fruitful and multiply. They do it instinctually. And so do human beings in a sense. But also they make the cognitive decision. It's a choice, and that's why I said before, and I'll just wrap up on the preaching before I get to the backstory. Life doesn't begin at conception. Life begins any time before that when Father God, prayerfully in the husband and wife relationship, male and female, nothing other than that, none of these other aberrations, okay, puts it on the heart and the mind of the parents, not the parents, the spouses, the husband and wife, the couple, to have a child. That's when life begins. It begins spiritually. Even before they have, relations or, attempt to conceive a child physically. That's when life begins, and it never ends, thank God. It ends here on this earth, which it shouldn't again, but it continues perpetually in heaven when our bodies turn into new bodies, or our spirit bodies, and we are either going to reside in heaven with the Holy Father, or we're going to be in hell. And let me tell you this, and I'll wrap up on the preaching, but I'll do that throughout, and again, I'll throw in some politics. 1 in probably 1 billion people go to heaven. I don't know who's in heaven. I don't know how God judges, and nobody should think they know. One of the ungodliest things people can say, and I see, or can write or think or say, and I see it in my dad's obituary. They don't know where he is. They'd love to think they know. Satan wants to tell you he's with his Savior in heaven. Whether you're a Christian or not, there's one God. You could believe Jesus was his only begotten Son, or you could not believe that. But again, God is the God of life. I don't know, think of any religion, any human being in the history of creation who didn't understand, in a sense, the value of life. Now, of course, people are murderous. They want to kill each other. That's all of the devil. But God loves life. What's more important? If everybody just, again, believed in life, they wouldn't have abortions. They wouldn't have a death penalty. They wouldn't kill each other. They wouldn't go to war. It wouldn't matter what religion. They wouldn't steal for, and murder people for money. They wouldn't destroy people's opportunities. They wouldn't do any of that. They wouldn't put them in, let them be suicidal. They wouldn't have them in prison. They wouldn't let them or have them be homeless or hungry. But life. So just, again, that's all that this is about. My dad should still be alive. And that's why, again, I have to leave these messages to keep his spirit, his memory, the video evidence of his life alive. But I wouldn't kill, that's a wrong expression. I would die again for my daddy if I could. I should have I don't want to get into it all, but I have to again. The only mistake I made, which shouldn't have to be a choice, was I should have let this person imprison me. At least my daddy would still be alive, because with God as my witness, I would rather be in jail and have my daddy be alive than to have him be gone. I'm not free anyway. I knew that was going to happen when this person and her betrayers were so evil. So again, I'll go back to the story. So my daddy's born. He starts with nothing, the youngest in his family, a literal American dream success story. And he, was the runt of his litter in a sense. But I never knew how talented and blessed and hardworking he was. What a great father he would turn out to be. I'm so blessed and my mommy too, who was born, February 11th, 1936, died October 17th, 1982, long before her time. But, tiny little petite, beautiful woman, inside and out, gave birth to 8 children. Now, the other 7 were decent kids when we were, brought up. We all loved animals, we're taught to love God, love our parents. We're good people, but oh, how they all went astray. And how they all betrayed. And my daddy said the same thing, but my father said the same thing, but my father turned out to be such a blessed father. All he gave, not just financially, that was the last thing, but the fatherhood, the belief in God, the belief in loving your parents and discipline and hard work and telling the truth and, being righteous, being good to people, being good to the animals, being generous and loving, and respecting life and bringing joy and peace. My God, I don't know. Everybody thinks their father is great, but you can just look at I think every day of the history of my daddy. I did every day while he was alive. Again, became a multimillionaire. But the odds of that are astronomical. 8 children. He was never adulterous. He was never violent. He was a good, godly man. And so with my mommy, and what a perfect union they had. Conceived again of the Holy Spirit spiritually when they wanted to have choice to give birth. And me born like a year after. They were married in 1959. Just worked, like I said, regular people. He worked at a radio station. She worked for the phone company. Then he became a promoter. How many people on earth can say they had, show business work with Johnny Cash, Elvis, the Beatles, and Frank Sinatra? And again, I'll put that link again down with the promoter. And I'll put down the link of my father telling what I call his stories of meetings with, celebrity people in all different areas of life, including politics, but not that meeting celebrities is the biggest thing. But so many photos I have on my Facebook of things my dad did. Just so blessed that other men would just strive to achieve. So he meets my mom. I'm their firstborn. Life couldn't be any better. Couldn't be any better. Until my mommy died, October 17th, 1982, pancreatic cancer, terminal illness, and my daddy did everything to keep her alive, to help her. We all relocated to, Massachusetts General Hospital, and that's when he started his hospital newspapers group, a paper, innovative, hard, just to get out to the community, the hospital community, to be a blessing to them, to save other lives. How many countless lives he must have saved through his communication, through that process. And he was blessed for it financially, the way God would want somebody to be blessed. He would have done it for nothing. That's how my daddy did things. Most of them. He knew he had to make a living. How much money he made with my mom, the blessings, a new car every year, multiple cars, all cars for the children, big, beautiful home, tennis court, pool. We made a golf course out of it, corral for horses. How many children in this world, in America, can say that? But still heartfelt. That's why I have a kinship, and I respect and like President Trump. He reminds me of my dad, raised in New York. But he was certainly more a businessman and, more successful politically, obviously, became president. But that's why I was able to predict President Trump as a New Yorker decades before he was even, said he was going to run. I followed his career. My father had an employee of my dad's who worked with President Trump as a speechwriter for President Trump. Flew around with President Trump. My dad had a lot of, good, talented people working with him, except after my mom dies, and here's again the story, Satan stole my mom's life. God didn't want my mom to die at 46. He didn't want that. He wanted my mommy to live. He didn't want my mommy to die that young. But again, she wasn't perfect. She smoked a little bit, cigarettes, which she shouldn't have done, but she was always in good shape. But, something kills everybody physically on this earth. We all, unless we're murdered, we're all in a sense die of natural causes. But again, my mommy dies and Satan attacks. Now, I got over how he first attacked me through drug and alcohol addiction. Thank God, March 3rd or 5th. I don't remember again the exact date, 1991. Nothing ever since. No aspirin. Nothing. I've had a broken jaw. I've had brain tumor. I got, broken nose. Broken ribs, root canals, tooth extraction, you name it. No pain medication. Nothing to drink. No beer, nothing. I had two non-alcoholic beers once, and I said, I think that's alcohol, and I didn't, and it got stopped. In 30 whatever years that is. Thank God. So having said that, here's how Satan, just like he came to a woman in the Garden of Eden, came to the woman. She even said, according to my dad, again, I'll give out the story briefly, she saw my father, and again, I have video, and you can see it, of what looked like somebody, this person who could have been stalking my father when he was running his local frog derby, even while my mom was alive, knowing my father was the wealthiest and most successful guy in 3 surrounding towns, Rensselaer, North Greenbush, and East Greenbush. For a while, and this is documented, he had the second highest salary of anybody in the Albany area next to Neil Golub, who was the founder of Price Chopper Supermarkets. My father was ranked the second highest salaried employee because, he's allowed to give himself a salary being a CEO of a publicly traded company on the over-the-counter market. But now this person wants to meet the wealthy widower. My father said she lied from the outset. Lied under the false pretenses of wanting to have a Bible study in his office. Now, I've heard this woman, her version of Christianity. You know who she followed? Joyce Meyer. If you're listening to Joyce Meyer, or you're, following Joyce Meyer, especially you men, evil. I'm not the Apostle Paul, but even the Apostle Paul says in the Bible, women are not to be preachers. One reason, they're more easily deceived. This is the Apostle Paul. Remember, he was stoned for converting from Judaism to follow Jesus Christ and died. Still in the Bible 2,000 years later. The most published book in human history. The Apostle Paul, no women preachers. She's out there preaching. Again, I don't know all the facts of this story, but apparently had bought with, donors' finances or, to support her ministry a $25,000 gold toilet. Do people really need a $25,000 gold toilet? And I would hear this woman on the radio when this person, I'm not going to hold back her name. Her name's, well, maybe I will. You can look her up for yourself. You'll see who I'm talking about. I'm not doing that because of any kind of court order. I just don't even like mentioning her name because it's evil. So I'm probably going to go this whole message and not mention her name. But you can find out who she is. So she wants to meet the wealthy widower. False pretenses, according to my dad, which I don't doubt. When I first saw her, I said, oh my God, Dad. And, she's 21 years younger than you. Not that that really mattered to me, other than I saw she's unattractive, no personality, no talent. I could tell she was lying through her teeth as soon as she met my father, like, sort of kissing his ass, if you want to use that language. But a typical gold digger. You don't have to look very far to find out she was a gold digger. She lived in a dilapidated dumping rental. My father would later tell me the only money she had, the main brux of her money, was from, and again, this is according to my dad. He alleges. I don't know. I guess I'm supposed to say that legally. I guess you're not allowed to report crimes anymore or have freedom of speech. But my father told me that her husband, because she was married when she met my dad, she had 4 children. I saw these children, unattractive, overweight. They did drugs. I mean, these were not smart kids. They weren't nice people. I mean, and definitely not the woman, their mother. And so what does this person do? So according to my dad, she's with this husband. He owned this company called Murphy Overhead Doors in Albany, New York. And I'll get to this story here, and I have time before I give you this update. And I've told this story multiple times. So she wants to meet my dad, and my dad alleges that this husband, his name was Joseph Murphy, he was a gun expert, hunter, liked guns, and apparently a few months after this person got into my father's office and started, grooming him from the beginning, brainwashing him, gaslighting him. My father called, even said to me she was doing, like things that, how do you say it? A codependent person would do called love bombing, fake loving him. But she's married. But apparently this husband dies in a gun accident, according to my dad, while alone, the husband shoots himself or gets shot. I was told for a while it was a suicide. It wasn't that. Then it was called an accident. My father says, no, the truth is she was alone with him, which means they could have gotten in a fight or she just did it, alleges my dad. Now, I tried reporting that. And again, she confessed it to my father for a couple reasons. One, because she used to tell him, according to my dad, that the same thing could happen to you if you don't do what I say. And she said she did it, according to my father, and I have him on recording. It's his testimony, that she did it to clear a path to get to my dad. So a few months after they meet, this husband, young man, and again, according to my dad, what this person did was she went to a life insurance, insurance salesman, and took out multiple policies against her husband because she told the insurance agent that, my husband plays with guns and he might end up shooting himself. Geez, that's a heck of a coincidence. A few months before the guy dies. So that was the only main money she had. Now, she also apparently had a job at some point, and this will come up later here when I finish this update, of working at a school called Emma Willard in Troy, New York. And I'll tell you why that matters later. So this person embeds herself, and again, my father's number 2 at his company was his son Joseph, who had a real disdain, didn't like God, wasn't always the nicest person, was kind of a bully, prideful, unapologetic, liked power, control, loved money. So he's in charge of running my father's company, which was fine. I was, and again, admittedly, I was off, the beaten path, doing the wrong things a lot of times, just, trying to get over my mom, but also was, trying to get myself toward ministry at one point and not, loving money. And I didn't like having to do all business. I just loved my dad and just being with his brothers and sisters. And I mentioned his brother Joe, and I'm actually named after his firstborn in his family, Mark John, who I love. But I love that kind of, those kind of relationships. I didn't like the business relationships. I still don't really like doing business. You're not supposed to make money from things, you can do it, But, God says, I give it to you freely, you give it away freely. So that's why I run a nonprofit. That's why I basically do everything for free. I've given away intellectual property, multi-million-dollar ideas, predictions, sports winners, predicted President Trump at 500 to 1. I gave it out for free, and I was accused of doing something to endanger my father. I mean, tried to get it to his son, Joseph. Joseph, put down $5 like I did. You'll make $2,500. Joey would have put down 100. He had much more money than me. Could have put down 1,000. But all that aside, so this person gets into my father's life, gets hired with the endorsement of this Joseph, immediately just started making money on my father as a secretary or an assistant. I'm like, Dad, you know what? And I told him from the beginning, I said, Dad, this will be the worst decision you ever make in your life. And he admitted it later. I didn't need to tell him. I said, this person is just using you, Dad. Just using you. This person is evil, Dad. Everything you ever built, you're going to lose. And sure enough, once this person got in my father's company, Green-Basheri News, bankrupt. Hospital News, defunct. The buildings, sold. The cars, sold. My father started no new company. The only companies he started new with her, all of them failed. And one in particular called Bingo City, which my father wanted, and you can see the link, Bingo City, the film I made. I said, Dad, I can't do it. I said, everything she touches, it turns to dust, or she takes the money. And my father later admitted to me, he said, Mark, I had to protect her, but she is greedy about money. And the reason for the fall behind Bingo City was her misfilling out paperwork, whether on purpose or accident, and basically controlling the money. But of course, Joseph, he doesn't know any better. He doesn't believe in God, and he's groomed and gaslighted by her too, and he just sees the exterior and says, oh, she's so nice to him, she's so good to him, she takes care of him, like his children would later say. Really, that's what you see in public, but you don't see the behind the scenes. And what more evidence do you need? Let's see, the guy starts losing all his businesses, and he gets arrested and has to take his only felony in his life for this Bingo City protecting her. He confessed, he told me, and I knew it. He confided in me, I knew what was going to happen. It wasn't hard to predict. Everything that my father did with this person lost him money. So after she's with him, and again, I also knew after, and this was before Bingo City, a few months or around the time, I think maybe before, a couple years into their marriage. And I told the story, I tell it briefly. I go up to his house, borrow a red truck. He said, sure, son, here's the keys. They're on the kitchen table. She's standing right next to me. I go down. I go to the kitchen table. I take the keys. I go to the truck. I come back the next morning. I call him. The police are waiting for me, arrest me for stealing a truck. I said, why? He said, well, the police said, and again, this guy named Mayano, this cop named Haraskins, nicknamed Haraskins. Total criminality against me while I'm being arrested, but they didn't have dashboard cams of today. But this person reported, well, I'll just say it because it's on the record. Donna DiBello recorded Mark DiBello is stealing a truck. Really? I stole a truck from my father's property? She was standing right there while he gave me permission. I asked her why. You and your father need to know. I'm in control. I will own all this one day. You and him do not have a say. I will never let you take advantage of me. I'm going to own this all. Sit down and shut the F up. Like, wow. Wow, I'm falsely jailed for 6 days. I got to spend in the cage in that can. Because she's got to try to exercise her power of control and start laying down the foundation of theft. I asked her about it later. She said, oh, I'll do it again. I'll do it again. Sorry, I had to move the kitty boy from getting on the stand here. I mean, that's really how you exercise you want to gain authority? So again, gaslighting, grooming, and brainwashing my poor dad. I never told him, and I already told that story, so I won't get into it again. I don't want to break his heart. I warned him, though. I said, Dad, can't you see this person will stop at nothing? She doesn't care who gets jailed. She doesn't care who's depressed, who's suicidal, who loses money, business opportunities, jobs. She doesn't care. She'll stop at nothing for money. And my father said the same thing. She's sick with her greed. And again, Joseph, he's so blind to everything. He's so easily deceived. So time goes by. Again, I mentioned Bingo City. So after Bingo City, my father now loses his house. Can't afford the house. She's going through all the money. Cuts up the property, cuts up the rooms upstairs, has to rent that out. She's spending all the money faster than he can get it. He's not seeing any of the money. She's putting it all away. Misrepresenting how much he has in the bank. And I've seen her do it. My dad told me she did it for years, he found out. He said she actually put away $1 million at least. I said, Dad, again, cares nothing about my dad. Deep down, certainly not like his firstborn son. I adored my daddy. He was my life. And I meant so much to him. Especially after Joey went his way and started making even more money. After that first business, the Hospital News collapsed with Joey at the helm with my dad. Joey went down to become a collection agent. All he did every day, collect money. Hi, you owe Bank of America, you owe Navy Federal Credit Union, you owe this company money. We don't care. You owe 10 grand. Pay us now. Your grandmother's sick in the hospital, dying. We don't care. Pay us the money you owe us. Every day. Now, I gave him some credit for working and making some donations to me, but 90% evil. He didn't care. Now he's making more money than you could possibly imagine. But I'll get to that here in the end, as I only have about another 35 minutes. So, again, my father's companies failed. He's got to move. He doesn't want to move. He's got to rent. He doesn't want to rent. His house he built with his own hands. We all lived in for 50 years. She had everybody evicted, taking more and more control every day. People weren't, especially me, because I knew the truth. See, I speak the truth. I warned my dad. I knew. I don't care if you're man, you're woman. Abusers come in all shapes and sizes, all genders, all races, all ages. But people don't expect it to be a woman. But I'm like, an abusive gold digger? You can't get worse than that. I'm like, Pop, back in the day, I'm like, Dad, she's only abusing, she's only mistreating you mentally, emotionally, destroying your family, didn't birth you any children, just destroyed your family. You're losing cars, you're losing money. I mean, you're becoming more like, not like a drug addict codependent, but like a codependency. I'm like, Dad, she's got you so twisted. You don't have to call her to ask what time it is. Look at your watch. Look at the clock. He'd call her 25. She hadn't called him 25 times a day at one point. All because he had money. And I did this illustration before. The more money he had, when he had this money, she was this nice to him. When his money went down, the niceness decreased and the abuse increased. And the more money he had, the less he had, the more she started to have. She got the car, he didn't have a car. She got the house, he lost his house. She has a house paid in full, he had to take out 2 mortgages on his. He died homeless and broke. The only money he was getting was Social Security. She was getting his Social Security, her Social Security from working with him, and apparently, according to my dad, he alleged her dead husband's Social Security. And even, I think, came after mine for a time. She has all the Social Security numbers of all his children, who knows what chicanery she's doing with that. And she even said to my father, I have a tape recording. She said she was a master at getting insurance and working, ways to get money, had a secret post office account. So again, just kind of escalating and expediting this. So he then has to move, and he's crying. My poor daddy. He doesn't want to move to this East Greenbush. He helped build the town, but he loved where he lived in our big, beautiful family home. So as the abuse even gets more, he goes down to the police chief, this Elaine something, Radzinski or something, doesn't take her husband's last name. Ironically, the wife of this guy, Maiano. Like, oh, that's not very respectful. He's an Italian man. You don't take his last name. My father reports either once or twice, this person is abusing me. She's beating me up. I think she killed her husband. I have evidence. He didn't think. He said she did. I have evidence she killed her husband because she was always disposing of the evidence. I want to be set free. I need help. This police chief, according to my father, I have it on tape, calls Joseph, his son, and says, Joseph, what do you want me to do? She doesn't investigate this Elaine. She doesn't arrest. She doesn't give I don't want to say give a warning, but, look further into the situation. She just says, Joseph, what do you want me to do? Like Joseph's the chief of police. And Joseph, again, protects her. I don't know why. Protects them both because he's friends with this Maiano. So he protects Maiano, protects the chief of police, protects this person who was, doing this to my father. My father was aghast. He's like, how can they don't believe? Mark, you're the only one who's got to believe me. I know you love me. I know you know the truth. I wouldn't lie to you. And then I think the second time he brings this Donna person down, and, she's laughing it off. Apparently now she's become friends, and this is going to wait till you hear my update with this police chief. And, of course, she's, got Joey fooled, and she does things in public. Oh, sure, she loves my father. Oh, kiss him on the cheek and loves him. Oh, he's the best. Blah, blah, blah. And behind the scenes, I told you the recorded messages I heard, the ones by accident. Like I said, and you can hear this message down below where she says to my father,
go to work and make money, don't you? I don't say you're rolling in. What's rolling in? Well, hold it. How can you spend too much money on food?
Because it's so expensive.
Maybe you should only eat Monday, Wednesday, and Friday instead of eating every day. Yeah, well, you stop the fucking food on me. You'll stop it about 3 days in a row, and then I'll make fucking thunder and lightning like you never saw. You think you're going to stop feeding me to threaten me? It's the only thing I do now. It's the only thing I have. I have nothing. I go no place, I do nothing. You go every place and do whatever you want to do. Now you're threatening me with food? Contribute. What do you want from me? Skin? You got everything now.
$100 a month. You don't buy a goddamn thing. Excuse my language.
Where's
You don't pay for anything. They're so cheap.
Where's the $1,100?
You owe me. It was going to be half. Said, okay.
Hold it. Where's the
You know where it is.
No, I don't know where it is. No, I don't know.
Joe.
Where is it? Just tell me.
It's in your checking, your savings account. Your savings account.
It goes in my savings account?
Yes.
Where?
Honey,
Oh, this is...
every week.
Oh, yeah. You got all the money now.
90 years old or so, wanting his last Social Security check. You're so GD, and she uses the word cheap. You don't contribute for anything. Food's so expensive. You're so cheap. How do you talk to a man like that? What do you think that says about their relationship, about who's, trying to have the power and control and the thievery, and what she thinks of his money and what she thinks of him? My father was livid. He's like, what am I supposed to... He couldn't believe it. This is how you talk to somebody after you're with them for 30 years trying to get their last amount of money? That doesn't show you anything? Listeners, believers in her, betrayers of mine and my dad's? What do you think that says? From the heart comes, out of the mouth comes the feelings in the heart. Berating, beating the man. And then I've got 2 recordings on his 89th and 90th birthday. He's got to call the police to get he's got to call the police to get her from roughing him up on his 89th birthday. He's got to call the police. She's ripping phones out of his hand, threatening him, punching him around. My father showed me video, sent me of her, and I heard her threatening my father with a broken nose.
Hold on, Pop. Say that again. You said she's got you what? So beat up?
Yeah, beat up. Do you understand?
Yeah, okay. Alright, I'm sorry.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you don't look good, Dad. You don't look good.
Of course I don't look good. She's killing me. I'm dying faster than I ought to die. I could have squeezed out a little bit more life. Nobody wants to help.
Don't show that video. Mark, my father's crying on FaceTime. Mark, she just punched me in the nose. Don't you tell that to Mark, you're going to get me in trouble. Mark, I told you when I don't know exactly when he revealed to me she threw him down and broke his ribs. The abuse had turned physical. So my father says to me, once they moved to Schenectady, because of course she wanted to live there to be near her children. She didn't care. My father hated Schenectady. She bought the house in her and her daughter's name, not any kind of trust or my father's name or anything like that. With his money. My father was like, Mark, she bought a $200,000 something house with all my money. And I saw her bank account statement. She's living large. And I knew the life that they lived. She'd go out in the morning. She'd leave a plate of food. She'd go out to what my father said was babysitting, which he says was an extramarital affair. He's had her followed. He followed her at times. She and her sister, who he couldn't stand, my father, they're out with other men. She's on vacation all the time. I told you, my father, the house was burning down once, or potentially burning down because of faulty smoke alarm, and he can't find her anywhere. My father can't get out of the house. I got to call the police and the fire department. She's nowhere to be found. I'm like, she's not taking care of this man. And my father's like, well, she go out all day. She goes out with her men. She goes out with her sister. She spends my money. At night she comes back. She goes to Proctor's Theater to meet other rich men. Was driving around with some rich woman she met at Proctor's Theater. My dad is calling for help, begging for help, calls me. I got still 700 messages in the course of 3 months unplayed from my father begging just to have a life. All right, I got to continue. The kitty boy, sorry. As I was saying, just to have a life, the kitty boy jumped up on the table and knocked over the camera. I love the kitty boy. All right, so continuing. So again, that's her day. And she'd go to this, Proctor's Theater. And then when she came back at night, they would fight. She'd make herself dinner, sometimes make my father dinner. And they would fight. They would argue because my father wanted to do things. He wanted to have a life. She wouldn't let him do anything. She took the car from him, took the keys. He didn't have keys to the house. She wouldn't let him have a cell phone. And when I wanted to intervene, because my father asked me to, he begged me, Mark, I got to divorce her. I can't stay with, she's beating me up. She's going through all my money. She's abusing me. She treats me like garbage. I didn't make that up. So, of course, she gets wind of that, goes to the family court where this Judge Walsh, remember I mentioned Emma Willard? This Judge Walsh attended Emma Willard at the same time this person, the petitioner now in this protection order, worked there. Told my court-appointed lawyer, this really incompetent guy, he said, well, I shouldn't defend you, Mark. I saw on the internet you're worth $8 million. Really? Some stupid website called Net Worth or something. Really? I've never had more than 80 grand in my life. 8 million? So this guy was and he already had bad press on the internet. He did something that was apparently, wrong up there. So this guy's a mess. This guy's terrible. But I said, isn't there a conflict of interest? He says, no, I don't want to do that. Really? So the order's filed in default because the court calls me. I didn't know I was getting a call. Mark, this is Judge Walsh. I was told judges don't call, defendants. This is Judge Walsh. I'm calling from, and I don't have the cities exactly right. I guess it's Rensselaer County Family Court, based in Troy, but it says the city of Brunswick. It's going to look like a spam or scam call, but it's not. I didn't pick it up. Why would I pick that phone? I get 10,000. I was just on Dr. Phil the third time. I got 10,000 false, catfishes and death, even death threats, slanderous things, fake, because I got 3 or 4 numbers for work. I got calls, everybody saying, garbage, junk, spam and scam. I've got 5 or 6 email accounts. They all have 10,000, unanswered emails, not to mention the hundreds of, even 100,000 spam. So the order's filed in default. Then I read the default, completely a lie. I read the order, I'm sorry, that was granted in default. Is Mark a dangerous threat? Yes. Really? My father, to defend himself, wanted to, push back against this woman. He said it lightheartedly. He said, Mark, I could kill her. I said, Pop, come on, we don't do that. He goes, I know, Mark, but, I got to defend myself. I said, I know, Pop. I talked him down from doing that. Then he wanted to kill himself. 3 different ways. With the knife she attacked him with, running through the sliding glass door, and pushing his mobility scooter out into the road. My father was never suicidal, but you get that evil on you, you got to escape. You don't know what else to do. I had to talk my father down all the time from wanting to kill himself. My poor dad, he never wanted to kill himself. He was never suicidal, but I heard it. I heard why, when the abuse had become physical. I told you, you can listen to the recorded message. The one I did get, there were 5 other ones. She's telling me, and I won't go to the whole message again, sit the F down and shut the F up. You're lucky I F and feed you. You know what's going to happen to you if you F and disobey. You're not getting $200 of my effing money. It's my money. I don't want you losing my effing money. Really? My father's Social Security check is her money? So she can go out and gallivant and do whatever she wants? My father can't even bet a horse race or play a football game? He wasn't even getting Social Security check. He says, Mark, you got to call Social Security for me. Here's my Social Security number so I can get my check. She gets my check. I can't get it. Dad, I'll send you some money. Great. But she steals it from my Bible. She says I got to give it to her. This is my father. This is what she said. She said, you better give me that money, or you got to give me that money, because don't forget you have Alzheimer's. And you'll forget where it is. She controlled all his accounts. He never sent an email, never had control of any of his sports accounts except the ones I had for him. She wanted to hack into those. Accused me of hacking into a bank account, but said I was violent. Really? I didn't have anybody falsely accused or arrested. I didn't threaten with anybody with a knife. I heard her. My father called me, messages, throwing a knife at him, threatening him with a knife. She had him on his knees crying in the kitchen. I remember her saying to him, who's the leader here? Who's your owner? If I wanted you to kill your children, would you do it? He's like, yes, I would. He had him even thinking he would kill his own children. Like a cult leader. My father, and I know he would never do this apart from her, he threatened to have me arrested for stealing family videotapes that he gave me permission to borrow for a year. She's beating the hell out of him emotionally, physically. You tell Mark he's going to get arrested if I don't get these tapes back. One of those tapes was Bingo City, so I could see why she would do that. But they're family home movies. What value to her? All the possessions? She's working to control those, and I'm going to get to, because I only have 10 minutes left, I'll get to this update. But again, having said all this, so the abuse continues. All my daddy wanted to do was leave. He wanted to get a divorce. She writes in the thing, I'm the caregiver. Mark wants his father to divorce me. Not the devoted wife, the caregiver. It was a job for her, and she wasn't a professional, and she was an evil caregiver. And the betraying children of his. I mean, Jesus, when you hear Jesus, he's mad, at the evil being done during his time. He wasn't mad at the people who were being misled as much as he was mad at the leaders who were misleading the people. But these people were his children. They were supposed to defend him. Help me defend him. Save him. They sided with her. They're either, accomplices. They're either just too ignorant and dumb or unintelligent, or they're just too ungodly that they let themselves be, caught, believe in that human being. What more evidence do you need to see? He's with my mom, he makes everything. He's with her, he loses everything. He hated his life. He wanted to leave. He wanted to get divorced. He has no money. He's broke. He has no keys to his house, no place to live, no car. Can't go out anywhere. Wants to talk to me. She's ripping the cell phone out of his hand. Falsely takes him to a doctor. Makes him take the bus on his 90th birthday instead of having a party. So, and I told this. He's calling me up begging me. So she, of course, and you read the death certificate and you read, the synopsis at the bottom where it says this is obviously a case of abuse. This is what abusers do. They isolate their victims. Mark's trying to save him. So take out, make Mark a scapegoat. Lie about Mark. Put all these frauds in the back of this, protection order. Keep Mark tied up in court. Because if she died without being married to my father, she wouldn't get to keep his last name, which is the best thing she could ever get, even though she misspelled it. But she'd lose out on all the insurance. She'd lose out on his Social Security, all the money. All these, and she said, apparently I've heard there's no will because he dies. Now, let me tell you that story because I went a little out of order here. So he said to me, Mark, if you leave me alone, now, he said anybody at first, but he knew his children, Joey, Amy, Lisa, her three biggest supporters, they were all being, deceived by her, and they were, doing the Joey, they all love money more than God and more than my father, or certainly me. If Trump is TDS, I'm MDS, okay, derangement syndrome. They hate me so much, they would make my father suffer. They could care less about me suffering. That's fine. They've been that way for a long time. But my poor daddy's suffering. So he wants to leave. So she's got to isolate him, you know what? And here's the thing, this other thing with the court that I just realized. So I'll finish the story before I tell you this update in closing. So they fought when she came home, when she was home, and she'd come home late on Friday nights if she wasn't on vacation, and they would fight. Typically Friday night, because she was there after the week. She didn't want to talk to my father. Just wanted to leave him a plate of food. Didn't want to turn on the TV for him. Didn't want to do anything for him. Didn't want to be a wife. Didn't want to do anything. Just let her go to her office upstairs where she was controlling the money. Go out with her friends. Do what she go out with her sister. Go out with her children. Go out babysitting with the guy she was, again, according to my father, having an extramarital affair. Do whatever she was doing. Go to Proctor's Theater. But just just. If you bother me, I'm going to threaten you again, like I heard her threaten him multiple times. Threatening him with a knife, threatening his life, threatening to have him thrown in a mental institution, threatening to have him thrown in a nursing home, threatening to kick him out when she knew she was going to kick him out. She knew. If she could have, she just couldn't get divorced. And she always had, if Joey sent, just played a message to my father, Joey sent $30,000, $30,000. She took it all, according to my dad. He didn't, and I knew because I sent him $5,000. He didn't get to see it. She just kept taking it, browbeating him, threatening him for his final Social Security, all the bank accounts. So, and then on Saturday, he wanted to bet the horses. $200 is what he would put into his account to bet with. And my father was, for years, always won at the horses. She wouldn't allow him to do that. Football games. He called me up September 14th, 2022. I think it was 22. It might have been 2023, a year before he died. Either way, with a message, Mark, I just won $2,500. I want to keep it away from her. I want to go to the lawyer to get a divorce. I want to go to meet with your landlord so I can move out. I want to go to the racetrack. I want to have dinner, and I want you to put this money in the bank, so you can send it to me, which I told my dad, of course, Dad, I'll do. And give him some more of my own money. She wasn't going to let that happen. Police get called. I get arrested for a protection order. I said, what protection order? Because I never knew about this order that she filed with all these fraud, that was filed in default and all these false claims. Doesn't care. I lose jobs for this. I lose opportunities to preach and promote and do anything I'm doing and make money and live. Doesn't care. And then her supporters all take her side. I'm arrested again for helping a man want to divorce a gold-digging abuser, for speaking about it on social media, for going to a court trying to defend myself with, again, of course, New York, female, woke, blue, Democrat, liberal, corrupt, unprofessional, incompetent people in the court system, just like President Trump had to deal with. But President Trump almost lost his life. He gets to be president. My daddy lost his life. And my life, I can't sleep. I still have nightmares. I was told, I got to let it go. Really? I got to let it go. It's going to make me mentally ill. Really? No. The devil wants, I'm not mentally ill. My mind is fractured and burnt out from having to try to do things that are godly. Justice. Do I sound like off the rocker to you? You might, I don't care what people think. I know what God knows. They accuse Jesus of losing it. No. I'm still defending my dad, getting justice. If my dad wanted her in jail, I should have endorsed that. I said, Dad, let's just get out of there. Let's just get you away from her. I showed my compassion for a human being. Said, you know what, Dad? Turn the other cheek, let's go. Well, he turned the other cheek and she hit it and then hit mine. I only got 5 minutes left to give you this update. But now she deserves jail, just like my father said. Not only for the things she did, he alleges she did to her first husband, and the things that, and this Joseph, working him, however she did to him to get this police chief to, turn a blind eye. And again, the government in New York, forget it, all of them, APS, district attorney, I dealt with and I told you this, you deal with law enforcement 99% of the time, they don't do their job. They didn't care when he was alive. They're not going to care when he's gone. They wouldn't do an autopsy. They wouldn't investigate. He had, 3 or 4 police reports of domestic violence. Read the death certificate. She writes Alzheimer's at the bottom. She tells him that. He never had Alzheimer's. Listen to the tapes. He never had Alzheimer's. Look at the report the AI thing did. Look at him, the promoter. He's talking about his life from when he was in his 20s, at age 90, 89. This man didn't have Alzheimer's. He didn't forget names. He was brainwashed. He was gaslighted. He was groomed. He was used and abused. It's just common sense, obvious. Circumstantial evidence in a lot of cases, but a lot of it, I have testimony, I have evidence, eyewitness accounts. I'm not going to go on. I'm not going to lie before God. I'm not going to lie before a court. I'm not going to lie regarding the life of my father, and I'm not going to lie on video. I heard her threaten him. I got to find the tapes still. I'm still looking for some of the tapes. I still have so many messages and tapes, and again, I'm trying to post them all. But now here's the new. So again, the end of the story is my dad dies. Called. Within 24 hours on a Friday night, I guess, or early Saturday morning, of course, when they fought, like I predictably said, not surprising spiritually, on the eve of Christmas, Easter Eve, when Jesus is hanging on the cross, he's whisked into a hospital with something that was totally preventable, because again, she didn't take care of him, she neglected him. And within 24 hours, he's gone. Dead. Of an infection. He didn't have to have, again, he could have been calling her for a week. Please, you cut me with this knife, or please, you punched me and I'm bleeding. Please, you knocked me over and I've got an infection. Take me to the hospital. No, can't be found. Don't want to deal with you. But gets rushed to the hospital in the ambulance. Who knows? Maybe she came home after her date and said, oh, geez, you're lying on the floor dying. Let me rush you to the hospital. Nobody there. The only person there was his daughter, Julie, who my father said, she said, I live in a bubble. I'm in my bubble. at least she helped him a little bit, but certainly not enough. Oh, I believe her. I didn't ever like her, her too much, but she's going to not hurt my father, really. And next thing you know, he's gone. Young, female, wine-drinking doctor. Who knows what she was up to? Nobody doing an autopsy. No doctor of experience. I had to deal with it in New York. And next thing I know, I get a call, after he's been there for 12 hours. My father goes to the hospital. I should have been called immediately. But of course, no. And my father said, Mark, as soon as she makes more money, me being dead than alive, I'll be dead. She'll do me in. She's just counting the money. How does she make more, and when is the time for her to cash out and for me to die? So I'm not giving up. I'm going to get justice from my father, because some of his final words to me in the message were, Mark, three things. One, there's no love in this house, only her love of money. Two, Mark, tell my story. And three, don't let her get away with it. Now, here's the last update, because my hour's up. So every time I look into this case, I got to find something that's more evil and corrupt. So I read the obituaries. Of course, her sister, this, person who falsely accused me, my father said was just as evil, this person. She writes, all the good times, love and condolences will be gone. And everybody's like, they're writing, condolences to this person, Donna. Condolences to her. All she did was profit off my father. She neglected him. She used, abused, gaslighted him, was a gold digger. She gets all the sympathy. My father, hardly anything. But I also saw an obituary from this person, Ruth Tompkins something. I'm like, this name seems familiar. Now listen to this. My First Amendment right, not alleging anything. I've got a screenshot if it's not still up there. This Ruth Tompkins person writes an obituary. I said, that name seems familiar. This Ruth Tompkins, one of the last dates I was in court, was the lawyer for this person, Donna Murphy DiBello. When is the last time a lawyer... Now, here's what gets worse. I heard that this Ruth Tompkins person is also the public defender for family court. So this Donna uses or gets this Ruth person, her friend apparently, to defend her at no cost, because she defends people in family court, to defend her against my father and me for free, so this person can do what she's been doing to my dad, and writes an obituary. Oh, poor Donna, hope you feel better, da-da-da. How many public defenders write an obituary like that? Or are lawyers? I guess if they're even friends. Yeah, you really? This person, because you know what? That's that, whatever we want to call it, women, female empowerment, evil, corruption, incompetence. Tell me that's not some sort of conflict of interest. Now, to make matters worse in closing, I call up family court because I've got to get this resolved still. I got to clear my name and clear my daddy's, not name necessarily, well, clear his name, perpetuate his name. Try to bring another DiBello onto this planet. Because she stole the name, which she misspells, used and abused the name, just like, for all the money, just like, she did when my father was alive. I haven't still heard nothing of a will. Really? I heard I was legally supposed to hear if there was a will. I know my father left one. What could be in the will? I don't think there's any money. She spent it all. I knew she made him sell his life insurance policies. I'm pretty sure of that. And I know she got more anyway. What, he said something negative about me? Really? She told him not only to have me arrested once, she told him to sell my grave for $850 or so. Really? Who would think to sell a grave plot? She doesn't have the power to do it, so it didn't get done, but she would have done it if she could. She made the funeral arrangements change. She cultishly controlled everything in my dad's life. But that's not a conflict of interest, and this person is endorsing that. This person is supporting that. There's got to be, God, whether God is my witness, I don't know all the Constitution and criminality, but there's got to be some, spiritually it's wrong, period. Spiritually it's totally ungodly. But that's not a conflict of interest. There's not something suspicious about that. Something suspect. I mean, like I said, every time I do something, again, I'm sending this information to this aunt, some of this, because the Bible says if you know the truth will set you free. Not free from imprisonment. She's not going to be imprisoned. But the imprisonment of what's going to happen and the way they're all going to be judged by Father God when their time comes. My father was essentially crucified. He died on Easter Sunday, just as Jesus was rising. Probably the minute my father died, was probably the last minute Jesus Christ was on the cross. I know how godly my dad was. I know how godly and blessed I am. Most of the time. Of course, I'm not perfect. But my blessed ability to profit and to predict, and I don't mean just sports, I mean profit is in spiritual, and predict things, and just having intelligence and common sense and a work ethic and righteousness and discipline and the godliness and the love that my father gave me and the respect for life and the pursuit of love, joy, and peace. I know what happened. My father and with all the Christ-like betrayers, Jesus couldn't get somebody. He had to get Simon to carry a cross. Nobody wanted to carry his cross. Veronica to wipe his head. His bloody, sweaty forehead. Nobody wanted to do that. He had two people, basically, three standing at his cross. And they basically, none of them jumped on the cross to rip him down. John the Baptist, some Salome's doing a strip dance. The mother cut the head off of John the Baptist. If I was there, I would have fought to the death as much as I could have for John the Baptist. Just like now, in defense of my father, I'm fighting for the one thing, the greatest thing my father and mother ever did, and that was give birth to me, believe it or not. And the only thing that's perpetuating himself, because he's been canceled out basically all over the internet except for me, his life, his work, his memory, the memory of his siblings, his brothers and sisters, and even my mom's brothers and sisters, being with only two left. And one of them, just again, like I said, has in a sense betrayed me. Or said, you know what, I'd believe her instead. I'll defend her in court, not you, Mark. I know what that's about, because everybody's got evil, but she's defending more, female defending female, mother defending mother, even though she never, never mothered my father children, and had mothered me for 35 years or so, but gave that up. And protecting his family, his children. Instead, we got to cast one of you away, we'll cast Mark away. I got to defend the other ones. I promised my sister Dorothy to defend the other ones. And she had defended me for a while. She was my, second mother in a way for a while. But anyways, that dissipated because all of them were like, we don't want you to have Mark. Take care of Mark. Take care of us, though. Don't take care of Mark. Mark's too much of a trouble. Whatever. But this isn't about her or that. It's about the life of my dad. And again, that update that I just left. So I did go 5 minutes over. So I just want this on record. And again, if anything happens to me, I want people to know the truth. Because again, my father feared for his life. I have to fear for mine. Not only false accusations, false imprisonments, but again, I'm attacked often. I went out of town somewhere and I could have been accidentally shot by the police 3 times. Not accidentally shot, but, police have no problem coming to me with guns a-blazing. Whatever the case may be. Not just, I live, I'm helping homeless people. I'm helping addicts. I'm helping, troubled people. They have no problem turning on you. I'm going into places, the hellish places, where God wants people to go to help save people. And that person I most wanted to save, that deserved to be saved, was my daddy, a Korean War vet who was loving, godly, good, and generous. He didn't deserve this. And I'm going to get justice for my dad. Because again, I'm not going to love him just until the day he died. I'm going to love him and my mom till the day I die. So God bless whomever listened, why you listened. You too shall know the truth, and maybe in a sense, spiritually, the truth will set you free, because my dad, he should live. He should be alive this day. And I have to do all I can do now to save and protect myself and defend and save myself from these evil people. God bless.